room, right? It's so hot here, but we are thrilled. I'm thrilled to be here. My name is Sandy Carter, and I am SVP with Unstoppable Domains. And Unstoppable Domains, if you don't know, is a digital identity company, and we also were just named Forbes America's Best Startup Companies as well. So we're really proud about that. What I want to talk to you about today is about your digital identity and how your digital identity can travel with you in Web3. So we will go ahead and get started. I first wanted to share with you a story. So this is obviously a pancake. Every Sunday, I make pancakes for my daughters. It's one of our traditions. And my daughters brought me this picture one day, and they said, "Mom, can you make me that pancake?" And I was like, "Of course I can make you that pancake." And so I did. You're probably laughing because it's not as perfect as the one on the left. But I think that's kind of an illustration of where we are today. If you think about Web3, we're in the...
You nailed it.
I nailed it. I know, I did. I thought I did, for sure. I thought I nailed it, for sure. And guess what? My daughters actually posted it everywhere on Instagram because they thought it was the very coolest thing, and they gobbled it up. But of course, it was an MVP. It has a lot of things to do, but it also involved a lot of experimentation. And that's where we are today in Web3 as we're going along. So as I talk about things, I'll talk about what's here today, but also where we're headed and where we're going as well. So first, let me start out with what a digital identity is, just so that we're all on the same page. So a digital identity enables you to log into any decentralized app, also called a DApp, and it also allows you to own not only your identity, but the data that's associated with identity too. So here I'm using examples from Unstoppable. On the left-hand side, you can see my digital identity from a social perspective. So you can see things like Twitter up there, Tumblr up there, that identify all of my social influence. And then some of the badges that I've got because I belong to certain NFT communities, or I've won an innovation award. So all my badges are up there to certify that I actually belong in certain communities or in certain groups. Over here on the right-hand side is a more permission-based form of my identity. Same identity, and what you see here is it lists out all the things that are there today in my identity. So my 3 million Twitter followers and social media followers are up there. My name, my email, my humanity check. You can also see that on the left-hand side, there are check marks there. And that shows what I'm going to allow a particular application to have access to. So the really cool thing here is that in Web3, you get to decide what data is shared, and you get to decide who gets the data and when they get the data, unlike today in Web2. So let's just do that contrast right now on Web 2 and Web 3. So today, if you think about your identity, you sign in with Google, for example. You sign in with Instagram, or you sign in with Twitter. And for the convenience of being able to sign in, you get access to the application, but they then get the data. So for example, even though I have over 3 million social media followers throughout all my platforms, when I then went into Discord, I had no social influence. Why? Because all of that information about me was held by Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter. So in the Web3 world, you log in with your identity, and all of those forms of information you can choose to share. So then you get clout or influence maybe on a social platform. Or we'll talk about some other examples too where you may use your digital identity as we move forward as well. So if you think about it today, how many people do own your shopping history? I'm sure everyone has shopping history from Amazon. I worked at Amazon Web Services, so I know for the convenience of being able to shop, you store a lot of information there. How about your banking information? How many people hold the banking information? Or even your contacts. Like today, I just ended up getting a note from someone who is a friend of one of my contacts, and they got to me through that contact. interesting, because when I reached out to the women that I was contacted with, she didn't know that she had shared her contacts more broadly. And then another question that we have to start thinking about as people is, how valuable is that data? How much is that data worth? And what is its value? So if you think about it, we just got the report that showed that Google and Facebook alone, just those two companies, their advertising revenue exceeded $100 billion. So I just asked you the question, how much is your data worth? A lot of times when I ask that question, people say, not really much. But it is. It's worth a lot of money. How much is my social influence worth? I don't know if you can see my Twitter handle down there, Sandy_Carter. You know, I have 90,000 followers. How much is that worth? There is a value to this data that you are seeing as well. Now, since we are in Europe, I also wanted to see some of the stats about Europe, and this is the most recent report that just came out from Eurobarometer, and they looked at entire European Union citizens. 73%, so not 100, which I was surprised about, want to know what's happening with their social media data. It's a concern for them. It's something that they're interested in knowing about. 66% of people, oops, what's going on here? There we go. 66% of citizens say they would use a digital identity if it existed. And this is describing it as a digital identity that travels with you and that you own your data. And so the second question when asked, who does the security? Who does the management? Is that too big of a cost for you to own your own data? The answer was 97% said no. We would rather own our own data than having it shared by someone else. I'm just curious in the room, how many people would rather manage and own their own data than have someone else manage it? If you would rather manage your own data, raise your hand. Okay, interesting. So this is another piece of research that just came out as well from Pew Research, which I think is really interesting. And this is a global piece of research now. So the data I had showed you earlier was from the EU. Now we're talking global citizens overall. So 80% of citizens say that this is a top of mind worry. In fact, when they look at 3 things that concern them, things like the climate and inflation, the third thing that they're worried about is, how is information that's being collected about me from companies, governments, and entities, how is that being used? What's happening with all of that data? So I found that interesting, that over 80% would put that in the top 3. So interesting to me, climate, inflation, and how people are using and leveraging your data. So then they also went into 2030, and they found that if people could leverage their own data, would that impact the GDP of a country? So instead of a company buying your data, instead of you getting rewards for providing that data, and Pew Research again found that there would be a 6% growth in the GDP for emerging companies. So those would be companies like Africa, who you know have really adopted Web3, or even Dubai, who just announced their metaverse strategy. And 3% of GDP in developed countries would be increased if individuals got to have control of their data versus a government having control or a company having control of that data. Really interesting, what I thought. So I wanted to give you 2 examples of the future. Remember I said we're in that dial-up phase. Remember the pancake that wasn't quite perfect that I made? These are 2 things that are coming. So healthcare data. Think about healthcare data. What if that was stored with your digital identity? So I was just at NFT NYC, and I met with a group of healthcare companies, startups, new disruptive technologies. And what they're looking at doing is storing in your digital identity, not just your email and your social following, but your healthcare record as an NFT. Now, why would you do that? Well, 60% of misdiagnosis occur because a doctor or a surgeon doesn't have all the information about you, because that information is siloed by different sets of doctors or hospitals or different countries you've traveled to information. And so if you can get all of that information stored in one place, and then you can decide which doctors get which information, they view that your healthcare quality of life will go up. In addition, I just moved from one city to another. I live in the United States, so I don't know what it's like in Europe, but I had to transfer my medical information from one state to another state. In order to do that, I had to call all of my current doctors up, and I had to ask them for the information. And in every case, they said they would provide the data, but only 50% would give it to me. Now, this is information about my health. The other 50% would only provide it to another medical provider, which I thought was quite interesting. Okay, so now let's think about schools. We're working with the largest university in the United States right now on putting information about your education into your digital identity as an NFT. So what would that look like? Well, imagine your diploma being part of your digital identity so that you could identify where you went to college, or a certification that you had just received, or skills that you had learned over time that you wanted to make sure were secured on the blockchain. This would help in many different areas. For example, my youngest daughter just took a class at a community college on computer animation. So being a good mom, I wanted to take that information and save it for when she goes to university, right? Because she would get credit for that. So what I did was I called the university, and you know what they asked me to do? The community college asked me to fax a request to them. Now, first I had to find a fax machine, and this was no easy feat, finding a fax machine. Anybody know immediately where you can find a fax machine? It was really hard. So once I faxed the information in, which I had to do twice, then they mailed me, not emailed me, mailed me a physical piece of paper that now I have to save for 5 years until she gets into college. So this whole thing could be changed if I had that as an NFT, and I could easily share that, across the board. So some interesting use cases coming in the future. So where I think we should be is I think we all should own our own data. We all should choose who we share it with, and we all should make sure that we, as people, will then have the power to believe where that data and that identity gets used or leveraged. Oops, let me get back here. And I just gave you some examples of digital identity. I used healthcare and education, but think about financial records. Think about sustainability. Think about travel, right? When I go from one airline to another, I have clout on one and I have no clout on the other. What if I own that data and I could share that I fly a lot? Government platforms, commerce, telecommunications. So digital identity in the future is even going to be more important than it is today. And in fact, yesterday I was on a panel and they asked me, what's your favorite application today for digital identity? And I said, it hasn't been invented yet, because there's so many new applications that we haven't even thought of that are going to happen through your Web3 digital identity. So this is what we do with Unstoppable Domains. We work with partners. We have over 500 partners that are live and committed. And what we do is we integrate a login capability so that then you can use a Web3 domain to log into any of those applications. So for example, you could log into a metaverse. This is Atlanta Metaverse. We were just at the Metaverse Summit in Paris at Station F. I don't know if anybody else was there, but we talked to a lot of metaverses. This is one metaverse. And then you can see over here, again, I can decide what information I want to share as I log into that metaverse. And then I can take that same identity, sandy.nft, I can take that same identity and log into a DeFi application like Cook Finance, or log into a communication platform like Huddle, which is kind of Zoom and Web3. So imagine that. I can now use sandy.nft to get into a DeFi app, to log into Zoom, to log into a metaverse, to log into a gaming platform, essentially to log into any application that's out there, and all that data that is collected now is owned by me, controlled by me as we move forward. So one of the examples of one of the integrations that we've recently done, I love to share this example because I think it shows where we are in Web3 too. And this is a family wallet. It's by Blue Studios. And this family wallet is quite interesting because what it does is it enables permission for a wallet to all members of a family. We created this because we found, like, my daughters are teaching their grandparents about crypto and what's going on. My sister and brother-in-law work in the school system. All the kids are talking about it. They want to know what's going on. So we would leverage and use a family wallet kind of informally. But now you have permissions to get in, and data can be stored by each family member as they go forward, as they're using this and going forward. Am I doing that, or is something? No? Okay. Okay, awesome. Maybe it's just too hot, huh? Maybe it's like, I'm done. Okay. Okay, awesome, thank you. The other cool thing is we also have templates for a family DAO. So while you can learn to earn with the wallet itself, we also have a template for a family DAO, which enables you to have voting rights as a family. So grandparents and parents and aunts and uncles and kids and everything are now able to use and leverage and work as a DAO. Teaches you concepts about a DAO. So imagine the next generation that uses this. So my prediction is that the self-sovereign identity is inevitable in the future. Based on all the numbers, which you saw 80% globally, 63% in Europe alone, want to have data that is owned and saved and used by them. And that's why I think that self-sovereign identity is inevitable moving forward. So what can you do to take back that digital identity and really use and leverage that? Well, there's a couple of things that I think are really important. So the first one is that you can establish your own digital identity. So through Unstoppable Domains, you can go and today get your identity, sandy.nft, which is one of mine, or sandy.crypto, a lot of different choices for that domain, and that establishes that domain as your identity moving forward. So as Web3 continues to grow and expand, we do believe it's important that you today own your identity. For companies, we think it's equally important. So what we've done for companies is we've protected any copyrighted or trademark name. So if your company today wants to claim that domain, let me know. And if it's protected and trademarked, then I can get you that domain for yours. This domain is a Web3 domain. So it's yours, you own it. So you know the difference between Web2 and Web3 is you own your domain. You get to manage the domain, and it's not a subscription or rent. It's actually owned by you. And then there are other endless possibilities that you can do with that domain as well. So we're working with a retailer right now, and that retailer is looking to see what kind of discount they could give to their customers if they log in with that Web3 ID because they own the data. So imagine this. Facebook typically buys data, right? You typically buy advertising data from Facebook. And as you buy that data, some of it's wrong, so they count on like a 40% fraud rate. So that really costs the retailer a lot of money. Typically, they really set on a 40% fraud rate. So now the retailer says, what if I don't have to pay for that data from Facebook? And what if I don't have to count on a 40% fraud rate? What kind of reward could I give to the consumer? So today, that particular retailer typically does a 10% off coupon based on all the factors I told you. They believe they could give a $1,500 discount coupon to every consumer based on the savings that they would make and data that would be validated as true because it lives and sits on the blockchain. So we're doing this today. We're doing this in several different ways. One of the announcements, I don't know if you saw today, we just announced an integration with Bitcoin.coin, which enables you to use that login. Like I said, we have hundreds of applications today. This just expands where you're going. And these are just some of the many applications today that you can use that domain as a digital application. Some of the logos that are up there today. So I really want to thank you for your time today, especially sitting in the steam room. Thank you guys so much. This is how you can get in contact with me. Sandy at Unstoppable Domains, which is my email address. My Twitter handle is Sandy_Carter. My Telegram, it looks like it's cut off, but my Telegram is simply Sandy Carter. And if you take a picture of me and just plunk it in there so I know it's from you and I met you somehow at ETHCC, then that would be great. Thank you all very much for staying today.
Thanks. Okay.
Hi, Sandy. Thank you. Okay, cool. One question. When you mentioned that, I know ENS because I did buy some domains on ENS, and people mentioned the script that you can enrich ENS to be the your ID on the ETH blockchain. I'm not sure that it's kind of clumsy, but anyway, that's one thing. But here, how does it actually work? You mentioned you have Sandy.nft as a login, let's say as a universal login, but you still need a password, or do you connect your wallet to a DeFi or a Web3 platform, and that makes the job? I mean, how does this work?
Oh, is it? Okay, great. Merci beaucoup. So the way it works is when you get your domain, you link it to your wallet, and if you want, to your email. Those are two pieces of information. Mandatory is only one, is your wallet. So then instead of typing in all of those characters and letters, you just type in sandy.nft. So that's how it knows that it's you. And then all that other information can be added from other applications or by you yourself. And then you decide who you share that information with. And then ENS is another domain provider. They are run by a DAO, but I think they're using more Web2 methods because you have to subscribe or you rent it, which for us was not very Web3 because we believe if it's your digital identity, then you should own it. And so once you buy your digital identity, it's owned by you. It's never could be taken back by you. It's on the blockchain, so it's yours forever. That's your digital identity. Does it make sense?
Absolutely. So would you say that Unstoppable Domains is building kind of an NFT ID? Because we've seen Ceramic building what we call NFT DIDs. It's still very complex. Is that something can we just say that you are building this, or is it somewhat different?
So I would say we have kind of two core elements. So one is the domain itself, and the domain itself provides you with that basic information. But the second piece that I think is critical is that login integration that then allows you to use the domain to be able to log into all of these, applications as well. So it's really the combination of the two that I think is very important. Because if you have a domain and you can't use it to log in, then you could use it to do a website, like you could with ours. But then what else can you do with it? It's really like you're back in the Web2 world. But because now you can do the login as well, now you have access to all of the dApps that exist out there as well. Make sense? Okay, thank you. Any other questions I could answer for you guys? Okay. Then really thank you this time. I really appreciate your time today. And thank you so much for, do you have a question as well?
No,
Okay. And thank you for sitting in this hot room because it's really hot. You guys were super smart though, sit right beside the AC. Now I know why you're still sitting there, right? Okay, thank you guys so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.